All right. Nancy, I am super excited to have you on this episode of In Flow with Soul. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation today.
Oh, thank you so much for including me in your wonderful endeavor.
You have been a huge part of me getting to where I am now, which is why this conversation, I'm going to get a little emotional. Is really personal. It's really personal for me. So what I'd like you, for those who don't know you yet, tell us a little bit about what you do now.
What I do now is I work with people. I'm an intuit, and I have been working with folks for a lot of years to help get their energy balance, to help find those little things that they're holding on to that may not serve them. So we have little thoughts and ideas and emotions that we hold on to that cause us to behave and think and act in certain ways. And my job is to find those and to help you let those go.
Yeah.
And to help you get on in a happier vibration, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for people who don't know what really an intuit is or how you do your work, how do you describe that?
Well, I just know things.
Okay.
And I'm able, over the years, I've been able to develop my intuition. Anybody can do it. It's
Sure.
something that came natural to me as a young person, and something that I came back around to later in life. And it is just really tapping into the energy that's all around us, and to say, okay, I want to connect with this specific person, and I want to know about their energy, and I want to know what's in their energy. And I do that with permission, only with whoever I'm working with. But I get information.
Okay.
And it's really interesting in talking with people how accurate the information is that's coming to me when somebody's really ready to do some work.
Yeah.
And so with that information, we have a conversation, and then we find out what it is that is causing them discomfort, causing them to not feel like they're ready to be successful or ready to step out into that next experience, that it's in their mind, but something's holding them back.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of it.
So how long have you been in this capacity as an intuit, using this for other people, not just for yourself?
About 15 years.
Okay. And tell me a little bit, like a synopsis of what these 15 years have been like for you. Like, did you just know who you were and what you wanted to do? Has there been some figuring it out as you go along?
There's been a lot of figuring it out, and it's been quite an evolution. I had other successful businesses before this work, and a life-changing event that caused me not to be able to do the work that I used to do. And what happened was one door closed and another door opened. I was not able to do as much work with numbers, which was I was a business consultant. And what I found was that I had awareness, and I thought, oh, great. Now what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And so it was a matter of, I started learning Qigong, and I started studying and practicing and talking to other people, and just trying to figure out what it was that I had and what I could do with it. And I think the most exciting thing, the thing that turned things around for me, was one of my consulting clients was a holistic veterinarian.
Okay.
And I had just come back from a Qigong training, and I saw this kitty in this cage, and I could just feel that it needed help. Okay. And the kitty was slated for surgery. It had a huge mass in its stomach. I get emotional about this one. I sat there and I connected with that kitty. I did my work and I walked away. And when I came in the next morning for a meeting, the vet grabbed me and she said, "Would you look at this?" And she had 2 x-rays, and one x-ray had a tumor. The other one did not. And that was the after.
Wow.
And that was the moment that I knew that there was a lot of power and a lot of ability to help other people.
Yeah.
And so that kind of turned things around for me. And I started really looking for ways to help people, to help myself, you know. And that has been a progression over the years. I never stopped learning.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily enjoy school, but I love to learn.
Okay.
And so there are so many opportunities out there to just see what other people are thinking. How are they going about things? And I try to take in as much as I can because it always gives me something.
Yeah, definitely. You know, speaking of always giving us something, just before we started to hit record, you and I were having our conversation, and I was telling you that along this path to get to where I am now, that I've been on at least for 12 years, I think is when I first decided that I wanted to change careers and become a coach, that there's been a lot of trainings, a lot of opportunities that I took and then didn't pan out the way that I thought they would. And I had often judged myself for why did I do that? Why didn't I make better decisions about, you know, what trainings I was going to go to or what opportunities I was going to invest in? And I was really hard on myself for that. What I see now is that although I'm not using all of the tools that I've ever been taught to use, having those experiences helped me recognize when something really did click with me. Like this resonates with me. That doesn't mean that that strategy doesn't work for other people or resonate with other people, but it just didn't work for me. So now I'm at this place where I feel like I now have a better way of determining what's right for me based on these prior experiences that in the past I've defined as failures. And now I'm defining as that's just kind of part of the fun of what we're doing.
Absolutely. Right? I feel, you know, I've done the same thing in the past, and I came to realize that everything that we choose can be an opportunity or a failure. And everything that we choose has value. We just maybe don't see it immediately. We may recognize the value in something that we experience weeks or years down the road, but there will be something pop into my head and I'll say, oh, I remember where I experienced that.
Right.
And yeah, it is helping.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot about mindset. It's a lot about how we value ourselves and how we value our experiences.
Completely. And I want to come back to how we value ourselves. But before we do that, tell me a little bit about, you kind of slipped in that you had other businesses before this. So you are already a businesswoman before you became an Intuit and created a business based on that skill set. So give me a little bit of an idea what your business background is.
So, 1986, my husband and I were kids. We came to Vail, Colorado, and we'd been working for other people, and it just was really it just wasn't satisfying.
Okay.
And my husband's parents had a small business, and they said, that's where you need to go. You need to find a small business that'll work for you. And we did. We found a liquor store at the base of Vail Ski Mountain.
Okay.
And we worked hard. We worked like crazy. I had taken a class in business machines in high school.
Right.
Which dates me, but that's the class. And so I had to learn how to do all the bookkeeping, all the marketing. My husband and I had both been in retail, but I learned the back of the house by the seat of my pants. And fast forward, we're still in business. We're very successful. Our son has come home to help us run the business. And so I still run the back of the house, all the employee stuff, all the accounting, that's mine. But I always, I like to be in charge too. And I like to be up front. And so after we've been in business a few years, I had learned a lot, and I'd worked with the small business people from the SBA and, taken classes and really done some training and some learning. And I started working with small businesses. And I created a consulting firm that there were 4 of us in the office, and we set up, we would take someone that wanted to bring their business to market.
Okay.
And we would set up their accounting. We would set up marketing, work out marketing plans with them, or else we had partners that could come in and help. And we helped them run their business. I met a lot of really brilliant, talented people that were in debt up beyond their eyeballs because they were just trying to do everything themselves, and they just got into trouble.
Yeah.
And so we would help them reduce that debt and bring their business into a positive cash flow and a successful place.
Yeah.
And I did that for a lot of years. And then there was the great, I don't know what, in the matter of a week, my office manager took another position, and I nearly died from a carbon monoxide leak in my house. And when I came out of that, my brain didn't work the same way.
Wow.
I had 30 or 40 clients, depending in any given month. And I couldn't manage them.
Wow.
And then another person that worked in my office, she got pregnant and decided she wanted to stay home with her kids that were already at home. And so everything kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
And I just had to let it go. I told all of my clients I was done.
Okay.
I moved out of my office and came home. And that is kind of when the intuitive piece started coming into play, because that door to the accounting and marketing closed, but all of a sudden I could read people's energy. I could read the energy of places and spaces, and it scared the heck out of me.
Yeah.
But over time and with practice, then I learned how to use it and how to do something good with it.
Wow.
And so it's been the best work really that I've ever done. And it gets me excited when I get up in the morning, and I'm still learning and still figuring things out with people, but it's been quite a journey, and I'm grateful for every bit of it.
Yeah.
I don't tell the story often anymore, but people used to ask me, well, do you wish that the carbon monoxide leak didn't happen? And I said, well, gosh, no.
Right.
My office manager has a terrific job that she just really loves. We're still good friends. I have work that is really meaningful and matters to me.
Yeah.
And it's not that the other work didn't, but this really is in my heart.
I can tell that. I can feel that from you.
And the liquor store is fun, and it's my husband's deal, and I, support that, and that's good too.
Right. So I'm curious, were there any lessons that key lessons that you learned either setting up the liquor store business or your own consulting business that you now lean into with this business?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm never afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
I'm not afraid to ask someone else for help. And that was the premise of opening the consulting business, was that we, as entrepreneurs, we can't always wear every hat. Mm-hmm. We don't have areas of expertise. And how much time are we wasting trying to do bookkeeping when we could be doing things that are making us money and making us happy? So find that right person. And so my consulting company was that right person.
Right.
We had connections for financial stuff, lending, investing. We had connections for all the things that a business needed when they came to market. And that's the biggest thing. With the liquor store, when I started, I asked a ton of questions. I had good resources through the SBA, and through my mother-in-law, who knew how to keep books.
Okay.
I watched, I learned, and just, I think, not being afraid. Mm-hmm. If you make a mistake, if you stumble, look at it as an opportunity to see, what did I learn? What do I still need? And talk to people.
Yeah.
Because when we close ourselves down, We get really mental about things. And it's like spinning your tires in the mud.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that.
It's very dramatic, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better.
Well, and as you're telling the story, what I'm thinking of that topic of asking questions. And I think that's one of the things that I was not good at all when I first started. I felt like, if I was going to say that I was in business for this, that meant I needed to have all the answers already.
Exactly.
And I should have known better. Right here, I'm judging myself already. But I had just come from a leadership role where I knew that I didn't have all the answers. And I knew that in my role as a leader, my job was to lean in, hire the right people around me that could get the answers, and to set up the systems for them to use their gifts for the benefit of the good. And yet when I made this career shift into becoming a coach, now all of a sudden I felt like I had to have all the answers again. And I think I hadn't considered this topic before, but as I'm thinking of it now, I think that was probably one of the biggest things that slowed me down, is that, which led me to taking all of these trainings, right? I just felt like the next training is going to be the one that I need, and then I can go, or the next training, that's going to be what I really need, and then I can go open my business. And right. there's that spinning the wheels in the mud, making a lot of really good noise, splattering a lot of mud everywhere, but I'm not getting anywhere.
Right. And I think that's really common, and especially for women.
Yeah.
We have a different, people see us differently. Mm-hmm. I mean, in 2021, I still say that.
Yeah.
And it's true. And it's not a bad thing, mm-hmm. but it does cause us we feel it.
Yeah.
And we don't want to look weak. We don't want to look stupid, whatever the word is. We don't want to look less than. And we aren't, but somewhere in us, there's a little voice saying, but what about?
Exactly. And again, as I'm playing this scenario out in my own mind, I think you were one of the first people that I was willing to ask for help from. You and I don't know if you remember this, and for the audience, you and I had met at an NLP training. It was one of the first training. It was a 4-day training. I think I happened to sit next to you on a little bench outside the conference room before the conference had opened on that first day. And then we just ended up hanging out together for that whole training, and got to know you a little bit, this work that you were doing with energy. I was super intrigued by it, because I had also done some reading myself, and even some dabbling in some energy work. But it was never one of those things that clicked with me. Like, this is my path kind of a thing, but I wanted the benefits from it. So I remember calling you back, and it might've been like a year later. And I don't know if you remember this, but I remember this. And I called you back and said, Nancy, I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I do. And I was surprised and thrilled. You were somebody that I just really loved interacting with, and I just loved your energy. And so it was exciting for me to have an opportunity to work with you.
Yeah.
And it still is.
Absolutely. I treasure the time that we have to work together, which is why this conversation is really so personal for me. So I remember I went, and I had no idea what you were going to do to me or for me, or how any of this was going to work. But it was just, I felt like what I could do is, in a word, just throw up on you when we got on the call. Just throw up. Here's whatever it is, make some sense of this. And then you just did what you do. And all I know is I'm on my end. I'm just being in tune with myself, and I'm letting you do all the work. You would probably describe it differently, right?
Yeah.
How would you describe the work that you do with your clients?
Ever evolving. But I guess to boil it down, I love to have a conversation with my client to know what's important to them, to know what's coming up for them and what they want to accomplish. And then I ask the client to just relax and settle in. And a lot of people fall asleep, which is perfectly fine because I'm going to tap into your energy field and see what's there and see what's creating difficulty. I use a tool. I actually use a pendulum to get information and to actually physical confirmation of that information. And then I ask the energy, I ask you to move the energy out. And it depends on the type of energy, whether it's an emotion or whether it's a thought or a belief. We hold energy in different ways. It all has a different vibration depending on the way we hold it. And we try to zero in and to find things that are getting in the way of you having your best life. And it's kind of like, it depends on the person. Some people, we do 2 or 3 sessions and they get everything that they need and off they go. And I may not hear from them again. I may hear in a year. It's fine. Whatever works. Some people, we spend a little more time working through the layers because we've chosen to take on a lot more energy. We've had a lot of life experience and there are just peeling back those layers a little bit at a time so that we don't do too much work and upset the apple cart. So to speak. But it's really geared towards whatever the person needs and what is going to help them get to their best possible place. I always want to be gentle and I want people to feel cared for and nurtured and to know that, this is a very personal thing for each of us. So I want them to know that I respect that and that they're safe.
Absolutely. Yes. And I've always felt completely safe with you. And you have helped me through not only like being stuck and not knowing why I'm stuck, right? And I don't know how I necessarily presented myself early on, but I know that we cleared away a lot of anger and rage and those kinds of things. And as consciously, I was not aware that I was carrying around so much anger or so much rage. It was so is it suppressed or repressed, whichever it is.
Well, and as I recall, we inherit things through our DNA. Our DNA is a blueprint. And when we've had a lot of family members, for instance, that maybe have experienced anger or rage or fear, that can come through as an energetic imprint on our DNA. And it shows up and we don't even know why. But it influences our life nevertheless.
Absolutely. So I remember working on some of those things that I didn't even know what I was working on. Like if I had gone to a coach, I wouldn't have known necessarily what to talk about. Even if I'd have gone to therapy, I wouldn't have known what to talk about because in my world, everything's fine.
Right. Exactly.
You had so there was a time when I experienced a major flare-up of psoriasis. So I've had psoriasis probably forever. And about roughly 5 years ago, it started to flare up where my face was burning. I don't know if you remember this, right? It was like a really bad sunburn from the inside where my skin down to my wrists, down to my chest, was blistering from burning. And it felt like burning. And I remember I would call you or text you and saying, I've got a flare-ups are coming up. What did you do with that information? Because you always helped me manage those symptoms during that first year of the flare-ups. So what were you doing on your side?
So what I was doing on my side was reading your energy and seeing what was directly causing those flare-ups. Our bodies are brilliant. They have this innate intelligence. And when we have symptoms that come up, it's our bodies telling us that something isn't right. Something is out of balance. And so it's my job to find what is creating the imbalance. And so going in and I don't remember specifics, but I do remember, just checking in and seeing what was showing up and letting that next layer get cleared away. And as the layers clear away, then your symptoms subside and we're back in business.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Absolutely. I mean, it really was. I knew I could reach out to you. And when you did your work, my symptoms would improve. And I was on this cycle of, the period of time in between flare-ups was getting shorter. The flare-ups themselves were getting longer until the point where all along, I had been avoiding going to a medical doctor because I didn't want to be put on the biologics with all of the side effects, right? So I really wanted to try to manage these symptoms without going down that route. And It came to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I found a doctor who also has a doctorate in metaphysics. So he's also an energy practitioner and an immunologist. So he's got both fields. And I remember he said to me, he goes, well, Mary, this is no big deal. Like, to me, it's a huge big deal, right? I'm, not only am I burning up, I'm physically uncomfortable. My face is everything is swollen up. I look a sight. And he's telling me, oh, you're fine. You are just fine. This is just a result of chronic stress. You just need to find out what your source of chronic stress is, and these symptoms will go away. Mm-hmm. Which sounds so easy. Yes. And I believe in that advice 100%. Because so far I still have been able to avoid the biologics. I also use acupuncture now as another one of the treatment modalities that I use to manage the symptoms. But the ultimate management of symptoms for me is the emotions, because when my emotions come up, the symptoms come up. Absolutely. Our emotions are tied to the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we create around our experiences. And, we get to choose how those stories go. But so many times we choose, I'm in so much pain, or I'm so stressed out, or, pick a phrase. But the more we key into those, the stronger they become vibrationally in our bodies. And the more havoc they can wreak on ourselves. Yeah. Because our bodies don't like the feeling of that vibration. Right. Our bodies want to be calm and in that homeostasis. And, we want to be in a state of wellness. Right. And it's a little hard for people to understand that we create our own discomfort. We create our own states of dis-ease by the stories we tell ourselves, by the emotions that we hold on to. And, excuse me, sometimes we hold our stories as a badge of honor. Absolutely. And, I know that's one of the things that we've talked about in the past, and not that you necessarily did, but that those are things that we want to really be aware of and get away from. Yeah. We want to tell the story that is going to serve us, that is going to make us happy. Yeah. One of the things I do first thing in the morning when I wake up is say, I'm going to have a great day. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to feel terrific today. And it's just one of those things. Right. And I think it makes a difference. I agree completely. One of the things that you and I had this conversation recently, and that I think is relevant here, is that recently a colleague suggested that I read the book Letting Go by David Hawkins. Mm-hmm. And I had read Power versus Force by him back in the mid-90s. It's kind of like one of the first books that moved me out of the traditional view of the way the world works, if that's a fair assessment. Here's another possibility. And so when I came back to David Hawkins in this book on letting go, it's a huge book. It's like 800 and some pages, but to me, it comes down to just the title. It really is letting go of those emotions, that emotional energy that we're storing in our body. And then when we acknowledge that, we give that energy space to move out through us, then
Yes.
all of a sudden I'm left with just me. And the me to me is that soul part of me, that part of me that is incorruptible. It is perfect. It's always been perfect. But I just haven't been able to experience it because I had all of these egoic kind of stories that I'd been living with about my limitations. And, you know, for the listeners who don't know, I was adopted at birth, and I had created some decisions about what that meant about my value from day one. I had decided that I wasn't worthy. And of course, I'm not consciously aware of that, but that belief shows up then in everything that I do. Every relationship that I had with my adoptive family, with my siblings, with my peers, like I was not very good at relationships, right? But it all comes back to that core belief of, well, I'm not worth that much, right? So why would anyone invest in me?
That's right.
So when I see this book on letting go again, to me, it's just like, I feel like I've come full circle with the introduction to here's a whole new way of looking at your world. And then it comes down to one thing, and that is letting go of those emotions. And, you know, I use some strategies with my clients, but, again, you are here to talk about the strategies, at an energetic level that, I find really fascinating. And what I love about it is that I feel like you have facilitated me letting go a lot of my story without me having to relive it or to analyze it or to get into my head about it.
Absolutely.
To me, it's just a cleaner way. I don't have to be re-traumatized, in order to let it go. It goes. And I think it wants, like, again, my soul says, we don't need this. Nancy's going to help us. Great. The soul's over there scooping it up to you, right? This is how, now that I have a facilitator, right, she can help me move that out. So
exactly. And that's one of the things that I find is the more we tell the story, the bigger and stronger it gets. And so when I work with people, as you know, I don't often tell you what comes up because I don't want to keep it alive. I want it to go. You're perfectly willing to let it go. So we're not going to recharge it and bring it back around. And it's tough for people sometimes to not get feedback about what we let go today, but
I like all those juicy bits, right?
Yeah. But it's really wonderful just to feel better.
It is.
And that's the goal. We just want to feel good. And, you know, we've created these degrees of separation between our soul selves and our ego selves. And in those degrees of separation is all the stuff.
Yeah.
And so in helping people let go of that stuff, then we get closer.
Yes.
You know, and you have always taught me so much. Things would come up in our sessions that I would go explore because it was like, wow, that is so interesting. And so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because you helped me learn and grow in the work that we've done together. And I am it's just such a huge shift from where we started.
Yes.
And, you know, you were committed to yourself. And that's the other thing. We have value. We are worthy. All these things that we hold at arm's length are the things that make us who we are. Yeah. And the sooner we can get reconnected there, I think the happier we are. You look fabulous. Yeah. Just listening to you talk, the quality of your voice is so different from when we started. And you wouldn't think that would be something that is affected, but it is. And so congratulations to you for really making wonderful changes in your life.
Yeah.
Bringing yourself out to be who you really are.
And that's just it, right? To be who I've always wanted to be. I was describing to a new client today that as we let go of, and I'm speaking from my own experience. So as I've let go of layer after layer, story after story, I feel like, again, what's left behind is me and that soul part of me. And damn, that feels good.
Yeah.
That part always feels good. And so with the letting go idea and having all of the experience I've had personally working with you and the learnings that I've done and applied for myself and for my clients, I'm just more and more committed to always paying attention to when I don't feel good. Mm-hmm. And I've decided that every time that I don't feel good, that must mean that I'm trying to control something outside of me that I don't really have control to do.
Exactly.
And then I tune into, well, what is the emotion that this is bringing up for me? And, again, if somebody would have said to me that I have anger issues, I would have really looked at them cross-eyed. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And yet in a recent, situation, I was tuning into it. And what came up for me was just pure rage. It was like, holy crap, I didn't even know I was capable of experiencing rage at this level. And I'm glad that I know what I know, that emotions aren't really literally going to take over me, because as that crest of the emotion that's building, especially when it's something like rage, and I think I'm a little afraid of it, to be honest with you. It was scary to let that build up, and to not the rage necessarily, but just that sensation that I'm now I'm opening to this. I'm willing to experience this rage and the wave, and have the wave come up and then start to recede. And to me, that was so empowering to be able to stand in that space, allow that rage to come up within me, accept it for what it was without judging it. I shouldn't feel angry, right? No, I do. I feel angry about this. I'm okay with feeling angry about this. I'm not going to control it, but I'm going to let it go through me. I'm not going to hang on to this rage. I'm going to let it go.
Absolutely.
And, I can't even tell you how much that has shifted my experience with that situation, just by being willing to acknowledge that emotion, let it go. And now, instead of feeling rage, I literally feel compassion. And in my mind, my logical mind says that's not even possible to have made that kind of shift.
Yeah.
And I keep waiting for that one thing that for somebody to say that, will trigger me right back into being upset. I don't think that's going to happen, at least in this situation. Because I was willing to acknowledge it, let it go, and not hang on to the story.
And that's the key. We'd like to think we have control over a lot of things in our lives, but the reality is the only thing we really have control over is how we react.
Yeah.
And we get to choose. Yeah. And that's so powerful to hear what you're saying about the rage and the anger, because that is a really uncomfortable feeling. Rage, I had some experience working with it and living it, and it just twists you in knots and turns you upside down, and it changes everything when you bring it into your energy field and hold on to it.
Oh my gosh.
And then, it's amazing what it affects in people's health. Yeah. Anger, there have been studies done that actually correlate anger to cancer.
Right.
And that people that are hugely angry, when they find out they have cancer, there have been stories of people that have just said, I'm done. I give up. I'm done being angry. I'm over it. And they get better.
Yeah. That's another example of surrender. And I think up until recently, I would have considered surrender a very weak position. Mm-hmm. And what I see now is surrender as being the key to strength. Because until I surrender to that experience, I'm going to be fighting it.
Right on.
And when I can surrender to it, allow it to do what it does, it's not going to hang around.
Absolutely.
We don't keep rage in our back pocket just in case we need it. right? Unless unless we're just not willing to let it go completely, right?
Exactly.
We're not willing to completely surrender to it, but it's just so powerful. And again, I'm so grateful to you for helping me get to where I needed to be, so where I could start now working on myself. I could start working on my skill set so that now I can support others in a similar fashion. So I would consider that my job is to also help people find where they're holding themselves back. Where's that emotion? Let me help you, show you how to let that go, so that forevermore from now on, you always have that strategy to choose. You can choose to let it go, or you can choose to hang on to it. It's always a choice.
Absolutely.
Oh.
I'm so glad you're in the game.
Oh my goodness.
Life is supposed to be fun, and I can tell that you're having fun. And I'm sure that whoever you're working with is getting great benefit.
Well,
you bring a lot to the world.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm so grateful for this conversation. I've learned so much from you. And again, you've helped me so much. So where can people find you?
Best way to reach me would either be Nancy at Headwards, HEADWARDS.com, or my cell phone is 970-376-3952.
That is wonderful. I cannot wait for you to be able to connect with more of these listeners. Again, it's all about letting go. The more we let go, I think that's how we change the world around us, is by letting go of our own stories, getting more in touch with our souls, and collectively, I think that's how we make changes.
I agree completely.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time together.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's really been a joy to be with you.
All right. Take care. Hi, this is Mary. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope that you are coming away from this experience feeling a little more inspired, maybe a little more informed, or maybe just a little more rested. Overall, I hope you're coming away feeling more empowered. If you do, please give a thumbs up for this episode, subscribe so that you will not miss any future episodes, but most importantly, please pass this link along to your friends and to your network. Let's pass this sense of empowerment along. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate you.